let me tell you about real woman. Not do anything for a like on the gram, let me tell you about real woman. Own house, own car, own land, let me tell you about.
Okay, so I want you guys to think of your greatest success and your greatest failure. And I want you to think of one lesson you've learned from each or either.
Well, for me, I would say being true to yourself and really believing and being confident in what you're putting out. Because I think that the times when I had my top sellers or I got noticed, or like today I was recently given a feature in the Express newspaper, and I got that from basically just staying true to my brand and putting like everything that I believe out there and not just hiding, because there are times when I just want to hold back and just like not put work out, or not how to put this, not connecting me with my brand basically, and trying to give people what they want and not focusing on why I really started the business. So I would say really and truly put out what you believe in. To not, okay, because somebody wants it, if you know that is not going with the vision and the mission and the objectives that you as a business want to put forward, don't put it out there. Really, anything that you're putting, any work that you're putting out, really believe and stand by what you're putting out, and that is what is going to get you the notice. When people see that realness and that connection, and this is something that you stand by, that is when you're really going to really have that, as I say, top seller or number one customer, or something amazing is going to happen whenever you do that.
What I would say is my biggest success thus far, since I've started in the industry, was the ability to literally open my own salon, not just rent a station or be shadowed under someone, but to operate and manage my own salon. And that happened on my second year in business. And it, honestly speaking, it was mind blowing. I did not know how I was going to do it for the that month onwards, because obviously we have all the overheads to cover. Rent is the biggest overhead sometimes. But I took the risk and I did it, and it was amazing. It boosted my confidence. It made me feel like, yes, I can accomplish anything. And it fueled that kind of passion in me to continue working hard, because at the end of every month, I know I have expenses to cover. So it pushed me.
Well, since Celeste and Denisha spoke about their successes, I'll talk about failure. And I think one of the lessons, the greatest lesson I learned from failure, and also I feel as though some of my greatest lessons that I have learned came from failure rather than my successes. One of the things I had to do is, I think naturally as humans, we are negative by nature. So when something happens, I think we naturally think of all the bad things first. And then that nasty voice in your head that's the worst voice that starts telling you all the things that you're not, and all the things that you did wrong, and all the things that can go potentially wrong. And one of the things that I had to always tell myself, and I have it on my notice board right by my desk where I work, is to separate myself from the failure. So don't classify myself as a failure. It's a failure only if I haven't learned anything. And that was one of the things that I always had to do, because with business, so far, I haven't really failed too much, but you see, with my trading on the financial markets, that has been extremely challenging for me. And it was a consistent, when you're going up and you're seeing so much gain and you're seeing so much success, right? And it's tangible, it's easy to kind of pick yourself up and dust yourself off. But when you're at rock bottom, and it seems as though everything that can potentially go wrong is going wrong, then it's really easy to convince yourself that you are the failure, rather than separating yourself from the mistake and seeing it as a mistake and just, okay, this is one way that I just discovered how not to do it. So let me shift my perspective and move forward. And I think that lesson has been one of the best lessons I learned, because every time something goes wrong, I allow myself to feel that negative feeling and feel bad. Sometimes I'll cry sometimes I'll be angry. I'm a very avid writer and reader, so I'll write in my journal. And it's real funny to go back and read my journal entries sometimes. But I allow myself to feel those negative feelings because also I think people always tell you, oh, dust yourself off, pick yourself up, and like as if it's something so easy to do. And as though you're not supposed to feel hurt and you're not supposed to feel disappointed in yourself. So I allow myself to feel that disappointment, that initial disappointment, but I don't pack up and just move in that negative space. So one thing that I learned from failure is to always shift the perspective. Because if you could look up, then you could move up. I mean, if you're on your back and you're ground zero, then there's nowhere lower you can go. So you might as well just shift your perspective and focus on the lesson rather than the failure and just separate yourself from that.
I want to share a little light on something also. Immediately after well, not really after, we are still in the midst of the pandemic. When, the country opened back and we were allowed to work and whatnot, that was one of the hardest times that I have ever experienced in business, right? Business went from being, let's just use a figure of 500 a week to $1 a week, right? Business decreased drastically. And I had to make some decisions at the end of last year, December last year. And one of those decisions was basically to close down that very said business, that very said salon that I was so proud of, my baby. I had to make the decision to basically close it down because now rent was becoming overbearing, right? I wasn't renting out stations or anything. I just had this overbearing expense at the end of every month that I needed to basically take a handle to because it started to basically cut into my savings. So I had to dip into my savings to sustain my business. And that was not making any sense. And I had to close. And that was so crazy. I can remember holding on to the door. This after I pack up and I leave. I can remember holding on to the door and I was literally crying because I remember the joy I felt when I opened those said doors, right? And I'm feeling the cry right now. I was literally holding on to the door and tears was in my eye and it felt like my world was basically coming to an end. It felt like, okay, business was coming to an end. And I said, you know what? Okay, right now I need to do some critical thinking. I need to find a plan because moving forward, we need to reopen this said business. So, class, how are we going to reopen this business? And that's when basically I couldn't sit down and drown in my sorrows. Yes, I cried. And when people told me, girl, don't cry, everything will be okay, you'll get back up. I was like, listen to me. You don't understand. I now close the doors of something that means so much to me. I now shut those doors and hand the landlord back their keys. So I will feel sad. Just give me a little time for myself. And I took that time and I literally I cried a whole lot. But I did some critical thinking and I had a plan moving forward. And it so happened that I just needed that time to do that critical thinking because now this plan I had moving forward gave me an opportunity of a lifetime where now I'm not even that much expense. I'm running an entire salon and everything is basically not even back to normal, but better than normal. Yes, business is still slow, but now I have grouped as a team of beautiful young ladies who, all are self-employed and it's so amazing to see how things could turn around. So yes, we will have failures, but I was so happy that I could use that time to really and truly refocus and basically come up with a new plan because sometimes in business we will have a downtime, but that downtime is basically for us to just shift and leave room for our next door to open so that we experience something better because we are always moving up. And in order for us to move up, we must experience a challenge. If something don't challenge us, then we don't change. We just remain the same, remain comfortable. So we need something to challenge us to go on to that next level. And that is what happened when I had to close business. And that was a great lesson from one of my greatest failures thus far.
What is one piece of advice that has stuck with you? And do you have any advice or recommendations for anyone coming up in your particular field?
The advice that stuck with me is similar to I think what Tanisha was saying earlier in terms of staying in your own lane, right? So the person they would have used some interesting language. I'm not going to repeat, but it was along the same line. Um, because it's so easy to get caught up in what everyone's doing and then you lose focus on yourself. So I used to find myself comparing what I'm doing to the people that have been in this industry for years and are way older than me and have way more experience. And it used to demotivate. And it is so important to just focus on exactly what it is you are doing and perfecting that. And education ties into all of that because you have I'm in the same position as everybody else where you have to stay up to date with the trends. So no matter what's going on around you, you look for inspiration, you look at somebody and say that's goals, but don't ever find yourself competing with that person because that's when you start to get demotivated. So to anybody that has to come up in my field, I would say it's ain't easy. It is not easy. You deal with a plethora of different personalities on a daily basis. Some people are interesting, um, where they would communicate in a style that you're not used to, but you have to understand that everybody is cultured differently, and we live in a very interesting country and people come from all walks of life, and you would meet the bougie, you would meet the what people call ghetto. I don't really like that term, but it's just hard to deal with the different mix of personalities, and sometimes it is draining, but you have to take it one step at a time and just understand, hey, this is what I signed up for. You didn't sign up for abuse. I'm not saying take abuse from anybody, but you signed up to meet all these new people and to provide a service to them. And when you need the rest, take the rest, but always ensure to give everybody a fair chance, a fair understanding, and excellent service, no matter who the person is. And I just want to elaborate on that last point because in my particular industry, a lot of people they take clients that they perceive higher and they may pay less attention to somebody who doesn't have a name attached to themselves or whatever. And I found myself slipping into this where somebody from an at-risk area in the country would have contacted me to do rentals. So I was a bit hesitant because the area is a hot area and I would have to send my drivers there and whatnot. And I was like, what makes me the person that decides that this person should not have nice things because of where they're from? So I sorted it out and provided the service, and my driver said that that was one of the nicest people they've ever met. So sometimes things happen, and you slip into some thoughts that you shouldn't be having, but it's important to always recollect yourself and treat every single person the same way. Give the person who live in Westmoreland and the person who live in on the beach the same respect.
I think Denisha, I think it was, said it too. Apart from staying in your lane and minding your business, as frank as that sounds, that is the truth. A dripping tap will still fill the bucket, you know? So the race is not for who is the fastest. It's really for who can endure, who can go through having your doors closed right after opening and still taking up a moment to feel the feelings, pivot, change perspective, and go again. That is endurance. That's the X factor, I think, with people who are successful versus those who are not. So staying in your lane, understanding that it's not about the swift, it's about the endurance. And also what Tanisha said is staying true to who you are, not doing things for clout and just for the hype of it. Substance over hype is what I always tell my students, you know, not just because you're doing something and because you think that everybody wants something, you're going to give them that, then that automatically removes you and your creativity from your brand and your product to becoming a people pleaser and to becoming doing things for clout. So that brings me to like my final thing, which is you have to focus on adding value. And once you focus on adding value, of like Mandisa said, every person is deserving of an equal opportunity to your service, to your brand, to your goods. And the thing is, like, you have to just add value, want to, add value to people's life, make people's lives better, enrich and empower people. And everything else comes after, So I think that if you start
for me, when I was going broke, having to just like keep going into my savings and putting into this business, putting into the website, putting into whatever, I was like, damn, I need to make some money. So I'm here trying to think how to make money, boy. What can I sell? What can I do? And the thing is, ideas were not coming to me. But whenever I think about adding value to someone's life, whenever I think of how can I enrich this person, how can I empower this person, my creative juices just go out of it overflows. My cup runneth over when I think about adding value and creating opportunities first. So for me, for anybody in any field, once your aim is to inject positivity into a space, if it's to improve someone's life, whether it is by giving them an event, whether it is by giving them a hairstyle that's gonna make them feel confident and proud of themselves, whether it is helping them to style their outfit and rock a piece of jewelry that makes them feel powerful, all of that is adding value to someone's life. And I think that's the first thing that you need to think about, and then the money and everything will come after.
Your hand in the air, the air, the